right, and we have a letter from Mr. John Navy, which says, please be advised that I'll be unable to attend the council meeting tonight due to a school-related event. I have reviewed the agendas and have made known my concerns. I apologize for any inconvenience my absence may cause, and because of a qualifying disabling issue, Mr. Michel will be attending our meeting. We are accommodating him via Zoom. I'd also like to introduce some of our elected officials in the audience. Senator Brett Alain, welcome. Representative Tanner McGee and Representative Jerome Zarang is here. Thank y'all for coming to our meeting. Approve the minutes of the regular council session held on May 25th, 2022. Moved by Mr. Harding.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approve the minutes of the special session held on May 25th, 2022. Moved Mr. Harding.
Second.
Seconded Ms. Domang. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on June 8th, 2022, which we've done. Approve accounts payable bill list for June 13th, 2022 and June 21st, 2022. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 1, general business. Presentation by parish administration relative to capital projects, including drainage, utility, road, and quality of life projects, as well as other related matters to the operations and maintenance of parish government, with legislative updates on capital outlay projects from Honorable R.L. Brett Alain, Senator, District 21, Honorable Jerome Z. Zarang, Representative, District 52, and Honorable Tanner McGee, Representative, District 53. All right, Mr. Dove, how would you like to begin?
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank the senator and the representatives for coming, and whichever one would like to go at first, please do, and please give us a legislative update, and thank you all very much for coming.
Senator Alain, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. It's been too long. We weren't able to coordinate last year, but I think we've got a great message for you. Since the last time I came here, probably one of the most proudest things that we've done is we now have a functional gate in the Bayou Chene that will stop backwater flooding and will protect not only the upper part of Terrebonne, but Lafourche, Iberville, St. Mary, and parts beyond. So $80 million project, completed on schedule and on budget, actually with a couple $1 million left over. We worked very closely with your levy district here in Terrebonne. They are very cooperative, and it was a joint effort, really. And I want to mention before I start, the delegation, all the delegation, we're not all here, but the delegation really worked well together, and I think what is going to be evidence of some of the capital outlay projects that I'm going to bring forth. As you know, I'm chairman of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, work very closely with the chairman of Ways and Means, Mr. Stuart Bishop, Representative Stuart Bishop, but also with Jerome and Tanner and the entire delegation. We work tirelessly to bring to you what we've done today. I think we divided it up. I'm going to take capital outlays since I'm the chairman. Z's going to take the budget portion, and I'm not sure what Tanner's going to take. Yeah, he does the color coordination. But all that being said, one of the other things that we're very proud of last year in the last 3 years of the 26 bills that we have called tax reform, we've only gotten one that's been vetoed. You may have read about it, but you saw on the proposition last year, the constitutional amendments number 2 that passed. Top rate for personal income tax, we moved from 6% down to 4.25%, and we're looking to do more reforms to try to get that even lower, if not like Texas and Florida and now Mississippi with their plan to even eliminate personal income tax in the state of Louisiana. So that's one of our goals, and we're going to try to put a plan forth next year to do that. So on to Terrebonne Parish. We We took in all of the requests that we had, and I'll start out with some of the things that's legacy from last time. South Louisiana Wetland Discovery Center Phase 2. Besides the money that we've already spent in this year's bill, there's another, between P1 and P2, another $650,000, and that should complete that project. And La Petite Theater, which was also, I consider, a legacy project, that should be fully funded with $5.25. On to some bigger things. Replacement of the Brady Road Bridge, planning and construction, priority one, $5.8 million. So I know that was a big one that y'all had. Replacement of D18 pump station in Falgout Canal, Terrebonne, Louisiana. We have a total allocated, we have cash, not bonds, but cash that can actually start being spent July 1st, $5.7 million with $2.1 million in trailing P5 to complete the project. Terrebonne Sports Project, payable out of the Capital Outlay Savings Fund, which was a fund we put aside last year to help booster those projects that we thought were priority. So $2 million out of the Capital Outlay Savings Fund, and priority one, $1.939 million, for a total of almost $4 million for the Terrebonne Sports Project. Valhalla Extension, which was always Savannah to 311. We've got $2.6 million in cash, state general funds, $2.6 million for planning and construction, and we have another $4 million in priority 5. And we'll probably try to move that up next year and add to priority 5. It's a larger project than that, but I think we're well on our way to getting that one started. Terrebonne Basin Watershed, HNC at Grand Caillou Pump Station, Phase 1 and 2, priority 5 of $6 million. Bayou La Carpe Watershed Project, which is right on the edge of my district, but one of the projects I've been pushing for, a total of $1.7 million to get that project good and started. West Side Alma Street Drainage, $729,000 in priority 1. This was the one that both us three really worked on very hard with the, which is for TEDA, Terrebonne Economic Development Authority. If Bollinger is successful in getting the contracts that they're bidding on right now, it's going to take at least $40 million to $50 million worth of infrastructure to help those guys get started. So we put in priority 2 of $4 million and priority 5 of $40 million. This is a game changer. If they get that contract, they've also agreed to put up $50 million of their own money toward the infrastructure. But this is, and I forget the numbers, a $10 to $20 billion 20-year project, which should do nothing but jobs in this area for a very long time. It's actually too big for them to build completely here in Houma, so they'll be subbing it out all along the coast. But this is a game changer for South Louisiana and much needed. And it's maritime work and not related to the oil field. So something that we're really looking forward. So we put the money in place in case they are ended up with the project. So that's in place. Houma Ave Canal Deepening Project, planning and construction, right-of-ways, priority 1 at $10.6 million. And priority 5 of $30 million to complete that project as we can start making project. On Terrebonne Port Commission, slip dredging, total of $5 million. Fletcher Community and Technical College, which is in my district. Precision Agricultural Training Facility. We're going to build a new building. We're way behind on keeping up with the technology in agriculture. This needs to be done. It's done nowhere else in the state, and we're doing it right here in Terrebonne Parish. A few other things that I'll add to that. Bayou-Lafourche Freshwater District, we have some priority one money in there for that. I-49 South, which you know I've been a champion of for a long time, we have total revenues dedicated to that at $232 million to try to move along from the corridor in Lafayette all the way to the bridge at I-310. So it's not, I mean, that's a $5 billion project, but we put a pretty good down payment on that. And I will mention two things that are also a game changer for the area. At Nichols State University, Coastal Center Facility and Planning, $11.25 million to construct, and another, because they were having some, with the price of construction going up, we put another $6 million in cash. The Center of Coastal Restoration will be at Nichols State University. That's jobs for the next 50 years, and a lot of money and a lot of jobs are going to be associated with that. Also, a huge nursing shortage in the state of Louisiana. We're feeling it all over. In Priority 2, which will be funded this year, $4.25 million. In Priority 5, $15 million for a total of $20 million. We will build a brand new nursing school at Nichols State University. The need is all over the state, but we're going to do it here, nearby. So that's pretty much what we have. I will tell you, this region got as much as any other, for the first time since I've been in the legislature, this region got as much as any other region in the state of Louisiana. Now, we had to retire John Hilario to get there, but that being said, I'm very proud of what we've done. It was a collaborative effort with the entire delegation. Also give credit to Beryl and Big Mike for cheering us along, but it was a long time coming. And at Nichols State University, those two projects and some other projects that we put in that were smaller dimension, this year, for the first time ever, Nichols State University got as much money allocated to it as LSU Baton Rouge did. So very proud of the work we did and look forward. As always, I'll tell you, it's an honor and a privilege to represent my entire district, including Terrebonne. I think I stood here when I first got elected 11 years ago and told you that Terrebonne would be as important to me as any part of my district, and I think I've lived up to that. So thank y'all very much.
And Senator Mike Fazee and Representative Beryl Amity will be invited to the next meeting in 2 weeks. So we will have an update for the entire delegation. Representative McGee.
No, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to come talk to y'all. I remember when I first decided to run for office 6 or 7 years ago, it was many of the people in this room that I talked to about getting started, what I'd focus on, and everything I focused on was about levee protection, flood protection, coastal restoration, and I feel like we made one of the biggest investments in that area since Gordy was up there at the Capitol. So it's been a while, but I was very proud of the work we did. To put in context of what Senator Allian just said, only one parish got more money in capital outlay this year, and that was Lafayette Parish. Terrebonne was second, and Lafourche was third. So when you really look at how we did in our region, it was really impressive. We were well over $100 million in each parish, and to give you even further context, Orleans Parish, which has the city of New Orleans, got $15 million in total. So if you don't think the delegation matters, it absolutely does. And so it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of meetings and a lot of working together, and I echo everything that Brett said about us working together as a delegation was central to us accomplishing that for the parish. So I was really proud of it. And then, building off what Brett said, we also last year passed a bill that I authored that allocated vehicle sales tax to transportation and DOTD subfund. That will now go into place this year. So what you're going to see is an additional $350 million moving over from sales tax specifically to projects and infrastructure. To give that context, The Biden plan at the federal level is $1 billion for the state of Louisiana. So it's not hard to see that in just 4 or 5 years, the money coming in from the state is going to dwarf actually the Biden investment in Louisiana through this money. That's going to allow us in this area to complete I-49 South. It'll allow you to complete I-49 North eventually. It's what's going to be used to draw down dollars and put investments in bridges in Baton Rouge and in Calcasieu. So it's going to be a mega fund project, so only mega funds will come out of it, up to 75%, and then the other part of it, 25%, is going to be for rural roads and bridges maintenance programs. So that's really going to be big for us, that 25%, also because we have a lot of rural bridges in this parish. As we all know, as they've been kind of decommissioned over the years or having to put out right now, we're dealing with it a lot. So we're very proud of that effort. That's the main things. I don't want to steal too much thunder and not let my colleague and seatmate Representative Zerang talk. I'm very proud of what we did. I think it's a big deal. But before I go, I want to tell y'all that I read on Facebook as like everybody else does, or my wife tells me I actually don't read on Facebook. She comes and wakes me up in the middle of the night with a nudge. DOTD is facing the same, and I'm not making excuses for DOTD, far from it. They have their own challenges as an organization. I don't work for DOTD. When people call me and complain, like, I agree with you. I understand the frustration. But they're facing the same frustration that every small business owner in the state is facing right now, is which they can't find employees. They used to have 10 grass cutters, they're down to 3 grass cutters. So when you see on Facebook that there's tractors that are not being used, yeah, the equipment is available and it's ready to use. It's about sharing the 3 men in the state right now who cut that grass. Their wages are not going up and they pay less than Target does to do that job. So you can imagine where it is. We are talking to them. We've alerted the problem. It's not just an area in Terrebonne that's the problem. It's a statewide issue. So nobody should think that Terrebonne's being slighted on this one issue. Maybe some other issues with DOTD we have been, but on this one issue, it's facing the entire state. We're going to talk to them about, and I've had some discussions with people in this council about how we address that. I've talked to DOTD. They're interested in figuring out some creative solutions to kind of get past it. But I don't want anybody who's paying attention at home to think that we don't care or we're not listening to it. We understand the problem. It's not going to get fixed tomorrow, but we are working on it. With that, I'll happily turn it over to my good. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Before I do have my 2 daughters out in the audience tonight. 2 of the 3 made it tonight. Grace and Kate, and Grace made it sure that I had to say that she's my favorite daughter. So that I turned over to Z.
Brought a cheering section. Thank you all. Well, they should have. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Believe me, for what I have to put up with sitting next to your dad, I need some cheering. But again, thank you all for allowing us to be here tonight and appreciate the opportunity. But also, again, to reiterate what Senator Allen said, it's a joint effort between the delegation. We work well together. And that includes the Lafourche guys as well, because this region, what affects, Lafourche and Terrebonne, it all works together. And I have the privilege of representing Terrebonne and portions of Lafourche, as well as Tanner, which unfortunately is going to change because with the new maps, both Tanner and I are going to be concentrated and focused on Terrebonne Parish, and some of those will go to Joe Ogeron, and the Lafourche Parish portions will go to Joe Ogeron from ours, Tanner's. But till that end, we still continue to work, and whatever's good for the region, we'll continue to support that. That being said, a couple other things that Brett didn't mention that were important in terms of state general fund and funding that were important to the region. The food bank received another $750,000, which it's going to be a top-of-the-line, first-class facility to help folks in times of need. They're doing a good job there, and they'll have a pretty good facility with the improvements that they made and the funding that they got. We also were able to get 2 ambulances for Bayou Cane, which is going to provide some additional support, much-needed support for the region, and I think that's going to be good. Also some equipment for Bayou Blue Fire Station and others. Those are some of the little things, but they're important to those entities and make a significant and big deal overall. But the important thing in regard to the budget, which sits at state budget is $42 billion if you don't count double counts. In HB1, as Chair of Appropriations, we oversee the aspect of the appropriations for state government, which is right at around $39 million. The important thing that we have for state government that is different the past couple of years, just like you all have been experiencing the issues with the pandemic and the problems with COVID and financing state government, for the first time in 2 years, we're actually utilizing state revenue as opposed to one-time federal dollars to cover the shortfall. And if things continue, as we hope they will, and if we're not experiencing a deficit, the opportunity to continue to do and invest in the projects, Organza to the Gulf, and those other critical projects that Brett mentioned will provide us an opportunity to continue to do that. And looking at some of the things that we made as overall in the state's budget, we did a significant amount of reducing the debt, which is important. And I think that is just like anyone else. It's not glitzy. It's not, doesn't make that many headlines. But when it comes to addressing the issues of state budget, in so much as the credit rating for the state has been improved. And you all know, y'all borrow money, set out bonds, and having a better credit rating improves both the opportunities to invest in projects, but also reduce the cost, which can provide more services, which is important. So that's attributed to the fact that a couple of things that we did. We put a significant amount of dollars to the unfunded accrued liability. We also paid off some debt for the hurricane storm damage risk reduction system. I wish the state would pay as much in terms of the non-federal cost share for us as they do for New Orleans, but we had two $400 million payments. We made one last year. We just made another $400 million, and that's going to go a long way in addressing the debt issue. We also put another $170 million in the rainy day fund, and now the Louisiana Rainy Day Fund will be over $758 million, which is pretty significant for Louisiana. It was right at around 2 or 3 after the pandemic, but we've increased that and contributed to it, and that again helps to address the bond issue and issuance. We put $400 million to the Unemployment Trust Fund, which is important because if you reach certain triggers, and we were below triggers. Before the pandemic, we had $1.2 billion in the Unemployment Trust Fund. After the pandemic, we actually had to borrow money from the federal government. Well, fortunately, we've paid all that back. We've also put substantial dollars to meet that. The major triggers right at $750 million. We put $500 million with the money that's there. It's going to put us at over $800 million, which is important because employers and employees will not face the tax, the additional funding that when it reaches that level, they're taxed the employers, that reduces the overall contributions that they have to make. Some other major investments, obviously this has been as Brett mentioned, infrastructure is important, and Tanner as well, but this also was the investment in education. We made the largest commitment and contribution to education than any other time in the state's history. When you look at the $80 million what we put to early childhood education, getting them started on the right foot, $137 million for higher education, and the teacher pay raise, which is important too. It's $1,500 for teachers, $750 for support staff. But the thing about that is, in the past 4 years, we've provided teachers 3 pay raises. So in 4 years, we've given them over $3,300 in pay raise. Again, still doesn't meet the Southern average. We're committed and working to try to get them to the Southern average, which they obviously deserve and warrant. But at least we've made and demonstrated our commitment to work toward education, also improving a lot with the healthcare, the public provider partnerships that are going to be the contracts that are coming through. We now have 6 providers. It was 5, it's now 6. So that's going to help in working toward the over $15 billion of federal dollars that come in to match to the Louisiana Department of Health to address healthcare issues. We also put in $53 million to increase those fund providers to protect the most vulnerable populations in reference to that $53 million. $37 million repair buildings and replace state aging assets, which are important, and also for a one-time payment for local police officers and supplemental pay. Each police officer will get a one-time $1,200 payment, which is important. And we also put an additional $8 million for funding cameras in special education classrooms. A lot of people are advocating for that, and we were able to fund that, which is important especially for special education. We put $175 million in a surplus budget stabilization fund. As I mentioned, that was part of the rainy day fund. And we also put in which Brett will have access next year, $130 million for the State Capital Outlay Savings Fund. For those, that will be another $130 next year that will be available for capital outlay projects. We also reduced some settlements, paid a lot of settlements that the state were owed to get that off the books. So we did a lot of stuff. And also, we put in $30 million. We set aside over $30 million that are available for Hurricane Ida recovery. And the way we set this up is primarily it's going to be through the 4 parishes that were hit the most: Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Charles, and Lower Jefferson. So the process, I'm working with the treasurer right now in terms of what the requirements and the rules will be, but it's primarily going to be for those entities, municipalities, local governments, that if they've applied for FEMA grants and whatever FEMA didn't provide to make them whole, and minus the insurance, which insurance didn't provide, to close that gap, you'll be able to apply for grants to fund that. So we're going to start that process hopefully sometime in August, and we'll let you all know when you can apply. Another important thing, and Brett, Senator Allian serves on the water resource project when we look from the ARPA dollars. And we're looking at trying to address issues with the water infrastructure in the state. We allocated another $450 million for that. And in fact, from last year's allocation, we put $350 million. We put in an additional $450 million. Terrebonne received a grant of over $7 million that's going to go a long way in helping improve the water infrastructure here in Terrebonne Parish. But if there are additional projects, starting the July 15th, the new proposal will open the portal for new proposals for water projects, water sector projects for parishes and local governments if there are other projects you'll want to apply for. And that's going to probably open up in July 15th. So that's kind of the major issues in terms of funding. There's a lot of other things that we worked on legislatively in terms of affecting government for criminal reform, justice reform, and some other things that we worked on. But it all comes down to money, and I think we have been successful. Again, credit to the delegation and working with you all. And past President Dove, and I know a lot of you council members heard from you all, and especially during the storm, I want to, again, kudos to you guys. I know how hard you worked and making a difference, and it's slowly coming back. We've made some improvements, and I know these dollars that I mentioned for Hurricane Ida recovery are going to help and make sure that we can get those applications in and apply. But appreciate what you all do, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Mr. Dove, you want to follow up?
Yeah. Well, and on behalf of myself and administration, and of course this council, I want to thank y'all for fielding our calls. Everything we asked for, y'all got. That's unheard of. Thank y'all very much. The $20 million for the HNC lowering the pipeline starts out deepening. That brings jobs in the Terrebonne Parish. The Bayou Chene backwater flooding has haunted Terrebonne for God knows how long. That's now in place. That is operational, and we thank y'all for that. And out of $20 million in statewide flood program, y'all were able to get us $10 million out of 20 out of the whole state for the Terrebonne Bayou pump station below Montague and the Industrial Road pump station. So we got half of the money allocated for that. Of course, the Brady Road Bridge, we've been trying for years to get it. And we're not only are we going to build a double lane, but we're also going to build it to 115,000 pounds for the fire truck in that area. The D18 at Fowler Canal, we've been trying. Of course, the $4 million sportsplex is huge. But there's so many things to bring up, but something we recently received, and I know y'all kept it going, even though this was put in 8 or 9 years ago, the $265 million ridge restoration on Bayou Terrebonne. That's going to be bid in 2 months, I'm sorry. 2 months, and I thank y'all for moving that forward. But ladies and gentlemen, that's $265 million, restoring 1,400 acres, 10 miles, it's in Steve Trosiclair's district, 10 miles of shore of ridge along Bayou Terrebonne, and affects 5,000 acres on the east side of Terrebonne, which we're getting killed over there. Besides, finally, the Val High extension from Savannah Road to Highway 90, y'all have worked with us, and I thank y'all, Senator and representatives, and we finally going to start that to alleviate that traffic problem. You know, another thing is, you know, the Terrebonne levy, I believe y'all got them a total of $25 billion. It's mind-boggling the money that was brought into Terrebonne Parish, and I thank y'all for it. Of course, the airport was $3 million. And another thing that y'all kept going, we started 8 or 9 years ago from CPRA, and the $360 million lock system, phase 1, as y'all know, is under construction. Now remember, you know, I want the public to realize, $360 million lock system that when it completed in the next 3 years will stop the water from the south coming in with a heavy wind. So, like I said, and I didn't even touch on all the projects. I mean, this is great. I mean, look, I was in Baton Rouge for 12 years, and I think y'all finally surpassed John Alario. Congratulations. Thank y'all very much.
Yes, on behalf of the council, thank you all for coming. And of course, I know, you know, a lot of the projects when I was on the levy board that we began are just starting to come to fruition. And what a lot of people don't realize is almost everything we have out there has a little piece of state money that you guys help bring. It's not very sexy. People don't realize it. I know Senator Allen, you pioneered the Bayou Chene project. You pushed that. Nobody would probably ever see the Bayou Chene project unless they happen to get in a boat and get out there. And they won't even know that it's working when they're not flooding, because people don't realize when they're not flooding. They only realize when they are flooding. But they need to thank, you know, I want to thank you all for what you did to help, you know, our people not flood. You know, if they don't know what we did, that's a good thing, you know, because then that means they don't have an issue with flooding. And so I know y'all have been very instrumental in that and all of the pieces that you've done, and some of the things, Tana, that you've brought to the sports park has been very instrumental too in helping complete that project. And I want to thank you a lot. Anything else, Mr. Duff or Mike? Thank you very much. Okay, moving along. Item B was pulled prior to the deadline, so we'll skip item B. Item C is a motion to discuss with possible action relative to remaining storm debris throughout Terrebonne Parish, including but not limited to telephone system cables and other utility system materials. That motion's by Steve Trosclair. Seconded by Mr. Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I saw the S before your name and I got Senator on the brain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on a second. Go ahead.
I put this on the agenda expecting to try to get someone from PSC and from the utilities companies, Charter and Comcast, Energy, and my concern is all the down power lines that are still buried in grass and roadsides and people's backyards. And needs to say, because of other things, short notices, they couldn't be here tonight. So I didn't pull it because I wanted to fill in the council and anybody else that has any issues with areas that have this stuff, because one of the things that PSC wanted me to do was give them addresses of locations. There's just so many of them that it's physically impossible for us as councilmen to get out there and get all these addresses. So, but I want all the councilmen, you know, my colleagues here, to understand what we're doing. I will put this on our next meeting, and they almost guaranteed that they'll have some representatives here at the next meeting. So all I'm asking is for you guys to if you meet up with any constituents, anybody has any issues, make notes of them so that when they do come, we can address them all at one time, rather than one person trying to send someplace here and another person someplace here. Because we still have a big problem. I spoke to Clay Knockham, and he's going to be here also, because, you know, we're beating up our grass cutters, you know, because the grass is not getting cut. And I know this is not a major part of it. It is a big part of problem of grass cut is they're having to stop and move these cables or pull them out, the cutting machines, or repair the machines. So we're losing a lot of time and money and effort in just getting our grass cut in the parish. So I actually, Clay's going to be here, and he's going to have some documentation with numbers and figures of his estimated loss in time and in money as far as just getting the grass cut in the parish. So that's all things that I want to address. I'd like to see us address with Public Service Commission and also these companies that they came in and did a pretty darn good job of getting things restored, but they quit as soon as they got things restored. They didn't follow up and clean up their mess, and I don't think it's our responsibility to do that. So I just want to bring this up instead of pulling it. I just want to highlight it tonight, and we'll go into some deep discussions on it at our next next council meeting. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Ms. Domain, you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you very much. And this would be a question for Mr. Mike and for legal. Is, we're going on a year since the hurricane hit. Is there a certain time frame that we as a parish can go and pick up those cables? I mean, is that possible? I know they don't belong to us and we weren't supposed to pick them up, but can we look into that? And I don't necessarily need an answer tonight, but if you guys could look into that and just say, is there a certain time frame where we can go ahead and just pick them up and dispose of them, then they won't be a problem anymore.
Mr. Toops, you want to start?
Yeah, Councilperson Domain, that's exactly what Steve was leading up to, is that we're going to have, hopefully, Charter, Comcast, and AT&T here, along with the Public Service Commissioner. Now, right now, they're having another meeting where they're going to have all of these people in Baton Rouge. And the Public Service Commissioner is going to instruct them that they are to clean up their own cables. Legally, I don't believe we can do it now. And the other thing is, we don't have the people to do it. We don't have the authority. I think if we cut a live line and we don't know how to determine whether it's live or not, then we would get residents angry because we're cutting their service. So it's a liability that I don't think we want to take, but we finally got David Zito's attention, Peggy Lantrip, and a great big thanks to Miss Debbie Artigo, because she's the one that contacted Miss Debbie and got Miss Lantrip and got the ball rolling. But we finally got their attention. This has been going on since we've been having the meetings at the school board office right after Hurricane Ida, if you remember. David Zito came and spoke at one of those meetings. So he plans on coming back with some answers this time, and hopefully they can finally get the cable company's attentions. And sometimes you got to hit a mule in the head with a 2x4 to get their attention, and I think that's what's going to happen with this meeting in Baton Rouge. That's going to happen between now and July 13th. So that's the little bit I know that I can add on to what Councilman Trosclair had to report on.
Okay. Mr. Burson-Jay?
Yes. Eventually, it would become an issue of abandonment if they just never picked them up. But like Mr. Toops was alluding to, there's a lot of liability issues that occur, and you don't know if they're live or which ones are still active. It's going to be a lot more productive trying to get them to actively remove them. Hopefully that's what happens in the upcoming month. But eventually, if they don't do anything, then we won't have a choice.
Right.
Anything else, Ms. Domain?
No, thank you.
All right. Moving along, a public wishing to address the council. We didn't have any speaker cards. 6:30 public hearings relative to, we're after 6:30, so we're good. An ordinance to appropriate funds relative to and for the adoption of the operating and capital budgets of the Terrebonne Council on Aging Incorporated. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close.
Closed by Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Motion to adopt.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Gerald Michel, seconded Mr. Danny Babin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item B, an ordinance to amend the 2022 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Bayou Country Sports Park, $11,662. General Fund Rotary Centennial Plaza, $18,000. Homa Downtown Development, $286,723. Homa Police Department, LCLE, $0. Homa Police Department, LCLE, $0. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin, second, Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin, second, Mr. Carl Harding. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item C, an ordinance to dedicate it and accept the maintenance operations of streets, drainage servitudes, utilities, gas, sewer, and right-of-ways of Summerfield Place subdivision, addendum number 18, Phase A. Energize and accept street lights and to incorporate the extension of Lancaster Drive into the enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses. Public once. Public twice. Third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Ms. Domain, seconded by Mr. Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Ms. Domain, seconded Ms. Trosclair. Mr. Trosclair. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. And now, Mr. Toops, we can remove those barricades off of Lancaster and put them off to the side. I understand we can't remove them because they belong to the developer, but we can send our guys to kind of go push them off to the side. Item D, an ordinance to amend certain portions of Section 18-289 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances to remove 9 parking meters along Belanger Street from Greenwich to Church Street, 3 meters on the west side of Greenwich, number 16, number 116, and 117, and 2 meters on the west side of Church Street between Main and Belanger Streets, and amend Section 18-243A to include a freight loading-unloading zone in place of the 3 meters along the west side of Greenwich Street, number 16, 116, and 117. Public once. Public twice. Third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Ms. Domain, second, Mr. Harding. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Ms. Domain, second, Mr. Harding. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item E, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 9369 to correct clerical errors as presented by the South Central Planning and Development Commission. Public once. Public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mrs. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item 3, A, accept the minutes of the Terrebonne Parish Sales and Use Tax Advisory Board meeting dated June 14th, 2022, and consider ratification of actions relative to the recommendation to accept the 2021 financial audit report as prepared by Bourgeois Bennett LLC. Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B, Public Service Commission, Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee held on June 21st, 2022, except for agenda item number 6, which was rejecting all bids for parish project number 14-DRA-05 West Alma Street Drainage, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, and I have one public hearing to introduce an ordinance to amend Section 21-31 of the Parish Code to add the Bayou Country Sports Park to the list of drug-free locations and call a public hearing on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D, Budget and Finance Committee, 6/21/22, Mr. Carl Harding.
Yeah, I motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on June 21st, 2022, and I have 2 public hearings. Introducing the ordinance to adopt a millage rate juvenile detention for tax year 2022.
Hold a second. One point of order. We skip C. If it's at the pleasure of the council, we can go ahead and finish C and do out of order B. Thank you. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. No rollover. Let's start all over. And the first public hearing would be introducing an ordinance to adopt a millage rate fast for the juvenile detention for tax year 2022 and no roll forward provisions, and call for a public hearing on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. The second one is introducing an ordinance to amend the parish compensation and classification plan to address other minutes and related thereto, and call for a public hearing on said matters on Wednesday, July 13, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
A motion by Mr. Harding, seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now returning to item C, Community Development and Planning Committee, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee held on June 21st, 2022, and have 14 condemnation hearings and 1 public hearing. Item 1 is calling condemnation hearings on residential structures and residential mobile home structures on Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. on the following properties: 305 Dixie Avenue, 502 Oak Street, 129 Tulane Street, 1430 Highway 665, 512 Parish Lane, 1120 Dasper Street, 5521 Smith Street, 153 Amos Court, 1859 Richfield Avenue, 6712 Shrimpers Road, 1125 Roussel Street, 221 Prince Collins Street, 415 Morningside Drive, 1188 Highway 665. Item 2 is introduce an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Parish of Terrebonne as to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 Multifamily Residential, Lot 19, Block 2, Barrow Subdivision, 361 Dixie Avenue, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana, Dream Street Properties, LLC, applicant, and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 27th at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Trosclair, seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Going back in regular order. 4, street lights, lights, installations, removals, and/or activations. As per Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded Ms. Domingue. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 5, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Rec District Number 6, 1 expiring term on July 31st, 2022, and 1 expired term. Mr. Ray DeRoche expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Motion to appoint Mr. DeRoche and hold the other one over.
Motion to open, close, and reappoint Mr. DeRoche by Mr. Trosclair and hold over the other. Seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item B, Recreation District Number 11, 2 expiring terms on July 1st, 2022. Ms. Charlotta Lyons submits application and resume for consideration, and Mr. Ronald R. Rainey Sr. expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Ms. Shirley Lyons and Mr. Ronald Rainey Sr.
A motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Lyon, Ms. Lyons and Mr. Rainey by Mr. Harding. And who seconded that motion? Mr. Babin seconded the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item C. Is that a nay? Show 1 nay, Mr. Gerald Michel. Item C, Children and Youth Services Board, 2 vacancies due to a resignation and 7 expired terms. Reverend Corian D. Gray submits application and resume for consideration, representing a faith-based organization.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Reverend Corian Gray, and the remainders will be held over.
We have a motion to open, close, and appoint Reverend Gray and hold over the other open terms by Mr. Harding. Seconded Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions coming up. We have the Bayou Blue Fire Protection District Board, 1 expired terms. We have a Kodo Fire Protection District Board, 1 expired term. Fire Protection District Number 8 Board, 1 expired term. TGMC Hospital Service District, 2 expired terms on July 31st, 2022. 7 monthly engineers reports, GIS Engineering LLC. As per by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 8 staff reports. A resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into an ambulance and transportation services agreement with Acadian Ambulance Service Incorporated for services in Terrebonne Parish. Move Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Second.
Seconded Ms. Domingue. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. 9 announcements. Mr. Toops, you have anything for the parish president? Then B, committee members. Mr. Harding. Council members, I said.
Yes. Somehow or another, we're unfortunate that we asked Earl not to show up, and then we have had a spike in our cases. And I just want to announce the fact that at the death center at Parker Lot, they have given 400 vaccinations, and they've been giving out some gift cards also, and they will be doing so Friday from 10 to 2. And I'd like to thank Apostle Albus and Stephanie Ward and the Star Corporation for actually doing this, and they've actually vaccinated about 400 people within the last 6 weeks or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Michel, you have an announcement?
Yes, 3 short items. First of all, Ms. Charlita Lyons, I'd like to congratulate her for her seat on Rec 11. And that's a sincere congratulations. I'm glad she's on it. I know she'll do a great job. Secondly, former parish president Michel Claude, I'd like to wish him luck in his new career with Council on Aging. I think he's got a tremendous amount to offer to them, and I'm excited to see him in that position. And finally, I'd like to thank Sheriff Tim Soignier for something that he did for one of the people of Terrebonne Parish today that was above and beyond. And I'm not going to go into detail. He knows what it is, but it just shows who he is as a man and who he is as a sheriff, and I'd like to thank him very much. And thank you, Chairman, for for getting me on this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Any other announcements? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn, Ms. Domingue, seconded by Mr. Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, guys.